Hello, this is Michael. I'm the creator of Attention Bazaar, and I'm here again with another video to provide you with some information that you might find useful. Today's topic is a rather big one. I'm not sure how long it'll take me to get through it, but I'll try to be efficient. What I want to offer today is two maps, each with 4 reference points that I think would be useful for you to know. In a way, it's a peek behind the curtain, so to speak, of a therapist and a coach, What do such people think? Well, this is what this one person thinks. After many years, over 40, as I've said, of doing this work, I've arrived at what seems to me the most simplified and elegant set of reference points that help guide my work. In a sense, after so long, it was a little surprising to me that it came down to this. In training and going on into one's career as a therapist, can be exposed to all kinds of theories and modalities of how to do the work. I've been trained in contemplative psychotherapy, exposure to psychoanalytic thought, psychodynamic thought, cognitive behavioral, systemic family therapy, brief solution focused, narrative, existential, dialectical behavioral therapy, mindfulness-based, CBT, others, a wide range of things that I've looked into and taken some courses and training in. And when you try to cram all that into one brain, it's very complicated and confusing. Having spent 10 years, well, actually more, but in the last 10 years, training therapists to be, and seeing how they grapple with trying to be aware of so many different theories, from attachment theory to transactional analysis to you name it. It's very confusing. One of the things, the main thing really, that helped me along the way was something called integral theory. And I'm going to borrow from integral theory to talk about one of the maps. And that's something I've spoken about elsewhere. Mind, body, relationships, and environment. Those 4 reference points. The other 4 reference points came from my inquiry, my curiosity about what is most fundamental about being a human being. What is it that we all share, regardless of our age, gender, sexual preference, race, ability, disability, and so on and so forth? Regardless of the particular constellation of our intersectionality, what is universally true of human beings? Well, I think we all, from integral theory, have a body, a mind, we have relationships, and we live in an environment. Show me anybody that doesn't have all 4 of those. I'll be very curious what that person is like. I don't think they exist. There's another set that it may overlap with those 4, but I came up with this as well. We have perceptions, we have thinking, we have feeling, and we have behavior. Tell me anybody who doesn't have perceptions, who doesn't think, who doesn't have any feelings whatsoever, and takes no action. Think about it. You with me? Nobody like that? Okay. So what if we take these 2 maps I'm saying that it informs my work as a therapist and a life coach. I'm always trying to pay attention to this in myself and in the people I work with. Thanks for joining me today. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Below, you'll also find a description for my online store called Bazaar. You'll also find a link for the store. So I invite you to come and browse, and who knows, maybe you'll find something that's just right for you. Okay, without any further ado, let's get back to the video. Let's start with the second map of perception, thinking, feeling, and acting. To be a conscious being at all means that we have perceptions. We have a perception because our attention, our consciousness, our focus has been put upon something. Once our attention goes to something, we have a perception. We perceive it. What are the things that we can perceive? This is where the two maps work together, I believe. We can have perceptions of the world, of our environment. We can have perceptions of other people that we're in a relationship with. We have perceptions of our own thoughts, perceptions of our own emotions, perceptions of our body. All four of these areas are places our attention can go and we can gather perceptions. Meaning just a raw awareness of something before we work on it. Perception. Once we have a perception, we have thinking. I think it's important to clarify what thinking means in this context. It doesn't necessarily mean a conscious thought. It doesn't necessarily mean a deliberate mulling over of things, although it includes that. Our cognitive process operates quite apart from our consciousness of it. Many of our perceptions will lead almost seemingly instantaneously to behavior, seeming to skip past thinking and feeling. But I believe that some cognitive process has gone on. The brain has interpreted that perception in a certain way and cut to the chase. Maybe we have to act quickly for our own well-being. Many things, however, and this is where we may have a little more conscious choice and options, is that we think about them. We may immediately draw a conclusion, but we can be aware of that conclusion, that interpretation of our perception. This is something desirable. This is something dangerous. This is something irrelevant. And we will have corresponding emotions or feelings that go along with those interpretations. Hopefully, our interpretation is correct. Problem is, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's incomplete. Sometimes it's a distortion, a bias, a mental habit based on our history of previous experiences. So we interpret. What do we interpret? Well, we interpret our environment for desirable things and dangerous things. We interpret our body for pleasures of pain and pleasure. We interpret our minds in terms of disturbing thoughts, disturbing feelings, or pleasant, wonderful feelings. We interpret each other. We assign motives. we have an understanding of the nature of our relationship with other people. So just as perception can go to body-mind relationships and environment, so can our interpretations work on that material and come up with assigned meanings for things that may or may not be accurate, that may be worthwhile to re-examine, to rethink, to fill out with other possible interpretations. Feelings. So we get this far, we're having feelings. Well, what are we having feelings about? Most obviously and commonly, we have feelings in relationship to other people. Excuse me for bumping the camera. But we can also have feelings about our own thoughts. We can have feelings about our feelings. Like, I'm really sad. I feel shame that I'm still sad about this thing. I feel lust. I feel immoral, maybe. So we have feelings about our thoughts and our feelings. We have feelings about other people. We have feelings in our environment. We have feelings about our body. Last June, when I was diagnosed with colon cancer, I had feelings about my body, the state of my body, and the fate of my body. So we have feelings in all four areas. Based on what we pay attention to and how we interpret it, what feelings that leads us to have, we can take action or refrain from action. It's behavior. Hopefully, we've paid attention to what needed to be paid attention to. We've interpreted it accurately, and we've had appropriate corresponding emotions, and the action we take skillfully addresses whatever it was, either pursuing what we desire or avoiding or defending ourselves from that which seems to be a threat. That'd be ideal, right? But we know that sometimes our behavior gets us into trouble, and we wonder why. Why do we do these things, and why did they not work out? If we're smart enough to ask that question, we could retrace our steps. What is it that we habitually pay attention to? What have we ignored? Do we have a cognitive bias in terms of how we interpret everything? Does that lead to chronic feelings of anger, hurt, resentment, jealousy? What do we do with those feelings? What results do we get? We can begin to ask those questions. Again, this is a peek behind the curtain to see the instrument panel on my therapist coach control board. Kind of like the Wizard of Oz. The wizard, I'm a good man, but maybe a bad wizard. I've talked about this in a different form in another place and written about it, the PowerPoints, how to take a recognition of these reference points and turn them into ways to leverage our power to make our life better. We can have habits that either lead us toward a feeling of well-being or not well-being. And there are patterns in how that works. And presuming that we're looking for well-being. I mentioned the variety of theories and modalities in psychotherapy. And I think haven't seen any that don't offer anything. I think they all offer something. The question is whether they're comprehensive enough, whether they take account of these 8 reference points, which are universal. When I've seen them be inadequate is when they've claimed too much territory for what they actually offer. One of the things I see therapists these days getting in their training and pursuing, not exclusively, but to some degree, is an emphasis on feelings. A kind of assumption that if you need therapy, it's because you've suppressed your feelings. You're not in touch with your feelings. And that therapy, the point of therapy is to put you in touch with your feelings. True enough. A lot of the time. Not always true. Sometimes it's not a suppression of emotions, but an overabundance or a out of control sense of emotions. A week or so ago, I saw somebody refer to emotional constipation and saying, yes, emotional constipation is a problem, but an equal problem is emotional incontinence, right? So, yeah, dealing with emotions is important. But where does that lead if it doesn't involve the mind, if it doesn't involve thinking without having some insight and some understanding at a cognitive level? Our emotions are just emotions. They don't really guide us anywhere. They don't help us create a life we want unless we use them somehow, unless they inform us and fuel a cognitive understanding. The movement to emotional-based therapies, I think, has historically come from what seems to be a lack of attention to the emotions, where analyzing one's history and analyzing one's transference in the therapeutic relationship and having a kind of a abstract map of one's psychology is thought to be liberating. But it turns out it's not all by itself. We need the juice. We need the energy. We need the direct experience in our bodies of our feelings to really integrate that. Perhaps I've said what I need to say for now. I expect that I will be coming at this from many different angles over time, emphasizing one part or the other, or finding one or another application for it. In a world in which diversity, inclusion, and equity seem to be on everybody's mind, on everybody's agenda, and the ways that we're different and the ways that we need to be recognized as different based on some component of our intersectional identity. In that world, this world, I believe that we need foundational reference points for what it means to be a human being. What it is that undergirds any of the multiplicities of how we can show up. And if we're overly identified with the ways we're different, if we overly identify other people in the ways that they're different, I think we cause division and at some point animosity. So along that path, I think it's very important to recognize what's universal about being a human being. These 8 things point to very large categories. Within each one, there are many other aspects to being human that are universal. This is just the continents, the continents on that planet. There are different ecosystems within each continent. But they all point to what we share. So, I hope this makes sense. I hope that you'll be able to reflect on this in your own life and give your attention to all 4 areas and not leap from perception to behavior too quickly, and that you'll examine your habits and find better habits along that path. In the meantime, be well. Toodaloo.